you for being here. Ms. Sue, as has been alluded to here, that nationally we had a significant problem with the unemployment insurance benefits. But what I want to talk about is the statute of limitations. So we approached $200 billion of improperly paid unemployment insurance benefits, and many of those statutes of limitations on these cases will be expiring in 2025. We have legislation that would extend the statute of limitation on fraud for another 5 years. That would be consistent for the statute of limitations for PPP and COVID idle fraud. How do you feel about extending the statute of limitations on those cases?
Thank you very much, Senator. I know I've said this already, but I feel like it bears repeating that the fraud, waste, and abuse in the system was unacceptable. It's intolerable. That's why I took the steps I took, and that's why at the Department of Labor, I have been so focused on making sure that we are creating an unemployment insurance system in conjunction with states that is going to stop fraud at the front door, deliver benefits to eligible individuals, be the safety net it's intended to be for workers who are out of a job through no fault of their own, and to be good stewards of taxpayer money. As I've also said a few times today, but not about this particular issue, so I appreciate your question, I have full deference to the authority of this body and of the decisions that Congress makes about the right policies in this case and in others. And if that is something that that Congress were to pass and entrust the Department of Labor to enforce, then if confirmed as Labor Secretary,
But you agree there's a lot of money still out there, and these cases are still ongoing, and we could gain back some of those monies if we continued those investigations.
You know, Senator, that is a very good question. I don't know, I don't believe that there are new fraudulent payments going out every day in the same way that we've talked about. I mean, obviously the pandemic unemployment assistance program
So I'm talking
ended.
about cases that are already should have been open that are not been closed yet. So extending the statute of limitations would allow us to keep going after the old ones.
Yeah, I will say, Senator, one thing is that at the Department of Labor, our Office of Inspector General has also been doing work to investigate cases, to try to recover monies where possible. And I do think that is an important part of the fight against fraud.
I want to turn and talk about the rules on joint employer definitions that have gone through significant changes in the past decade. Previous administration's rule provided a clear-cut, defined, and accurate definition of a joint employer. And again, you may have answered this question already. We're bouncing between committees. Under your leadership, this rule was rescinded and has not been replicated with anything. This has caused quite a bit of uncertainty for businesses. And to that end, would you agree that an employer should be considered a joint employer only if directly, actually, and immediately exercises significant control over the primary elements of employment?
Senator, thank you so much for that question. The joint employer rule that was put in place by the prior administration was actually vacated by a federal judge. I mean, a federal judge said that that rule could not stand. As a result, the Department of Labor rescinded it. What that did was restore the state of the law to the place it was before that rule came into place, which was based on decades of federal cases interpreting who a joint employer is and under what circumstances it would apply.
Do you agree with what I defined a joint employer was a second ago? Want me to go through that again? Would you agree that an employer should be considered a joint employer only if it directly, actually, immediately exercises significant control over the primary elements of employment?
Thank you for that question, Senator. The joint employer test, I know you know this, is a fact-specific test. It's a test that's based on the relationship between two or more.
So I defined it one way. Would you agree with the way I defined it? I think it's a yes or no question.
You know, Senator, I'm not familiar enough with the case law to say that that summary of it is an accurate statement of it. But I think to the point.
Then lastly,
Okay.
and I understand that, business has been waiting over a year for an answer from the Department of Labor. Do you think that they deserve an answer sooner so they can make plans? There's nothing worse for a small business, for any business, than uncertainty.
I 100% agree with that. I think the regulatory certainty is very, very important. I know that from my family's history of having a small business, as well as my extended family's current status as business owners. The joint employer test, as it stands, is based on case law that has been developed over several decades. The Department of Labor does not have in its current agenda a plan to issue another rule about that.
Okay, thank you. I yield back.